This Valentine's Day, celebrate the one you love the most with Hallmark cards at Walgreens. Valentine's Day is the best time to send your favorite person a reminder of just how much they mean to you. A Hallmark card is a super simple and beautiful way to say how grateful you are for the love you two share. Don't forget, Valentine's Day is Saturday, February 14th. Visit Walgreens today to find a Hallmark card that shows just how much you love them. Because love lives here.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome everybody to the Hockey Think Tank podcast, brought to you by the hockeythinktank.com, a website for all players, parents, and coaches to go to get a little bit of education and a little bit of inspiration regarding the greatest game on the planet. What an episode we have for you guys here today. This was unreal. Unreal conversation with the one, the only, my little sister, Jessi Scott. No, not Jessi Scott, Jessi Feld. Jessi Feld. Ooh. She is married to Ryan Feld. My bad, Ryan. My bad. I've been calling her Jessi Scott for a long time, but Jessi Feld. And this dude, this was an unbelievable conversation. One that I think is going to be one of the most downloaded and shares that we have done in the entire 5 years that we have been doing this. My sister, Jessi, is an educator. She is a teacher. She is a school administrator. And we talked about how to educate kids, how to motivate kids, how to create lesson plan. This was unbelievable. And so I'm really, really excited to get over this one. She's so knowledgeable. She's so passionate about what she does. You guys are absolutely going to love this episode, but you also love somebody too. And his name is the talent of the podcast, Jeffrey J. Hulavecchio. So before we get over to Jess, let's bring on Vex. Vex, what's going on today?
Hot, Carl. I got an announcement here, guys. Listening to us for all these years is really going to start paying off because we have something pretty cool for you guys. So if you guys remember,
hold on. First, I want to preface this on saying that I cannot wait to Vex to get through this. I am so going to be entertained by him trying to relay all this information right now. And so this is going to be super entertaining, guys. So sit back, relax, and let's see if Vex can get through this message unscathed.
I told Toph I'm absolutely one take Tony, and I will slay this. So, guys, if you remember a few months ago, we had on former Stanley Cup champion Eric Fair. Absolutely great dude. I've gotten to know him more and more over the last couple months, and I really, really, really appreciate this guy. Really, really like what he stands for. He's a really good dude. But he's the owner of a company called Lactigo. My guys use it. A lot of my pro, college, and junior players, and now a bunch of the kids at TPH Academy, they use it during their games. All right, it helps a ton. One of the organizations I work with used it for one weekend with one of their teams, and they bought 200 bottles immediately the next day. The stuff works, just lets you go harder for longer, basically, if I was going to break it down into dummy terms. But what they're really doing here, all right, guys, the Lactigo Game Changer Challenge for the Hockey Think Tank podcast. All you have to do is comment on our Hockey Think Tank podcast reel. Our Instagram is at the Hockey Think Tank podcast. Comment on our reel.
Not the Hockey Think Tank podcast, just at Hockey Think Tank podcast.
Hockey Think Tank podcast. There is no in that one. So you go to Hockey Think Tank podcast on Instagram to our reel on Tuesday, the day after this episode releases. All you got to do is tag at Lactigo Game Changer and then tag your team. You'll be entered to win. We're choosing 10 different winners for this, guys. And if you tag your team, you'll win 6 bottles for your team. That will last you guys a ton of games. Again, I will say this. All you have to do to be entered to win is go to at Hockey Think Tank podcast on Instagram. December 12th, the reel that will be released. Tag at Lactigo Game Changer and your team, maybe even a friend. Who knows? Maybe you never know. Lactigo's a pretty nice company. You never know what they might do. But they're going to be giving away 60 free bottles if you do this. Again, Hockey Think Tank podcast. I always hear when they do things like this, they say them over and over. I'm not going to say it again. You guys heard it. Lactigo is unbelievable. I truly do believe in it. I use it. I went to a kettlebell course this past weekend that was 16 hours over 2 days. I lathered myself in Lactigo twice a day in between the sessions. So 4 hours, lather it up, baby. Give me the butter. All right. And it really helped. So if you want that Lactigo, you know what to do. Comment on our December 12th reel at Lactigo Game Changer in your team. Booyah. 6 bottles on the line.
Wow. One take, Tony. There you go. Good job, man.
Thanks, bro.
I'm impressed.
You don't get 111,000 followers on Instagram by sucking on camera.
There you go. I like it.
That's a lot of practice.
That's gonna be one of the things I'm gonna introduce you as now. Jeffrey Jehu, one take Tony Lavecchio.
Especially one because I can be Tony Perkis. Because
one
take Tony Perkis. Just another thing to chirp me about.
There you go. Hey, that's an awesome giveaway.
Dude, those bottles are like $30 a bottle. And they'll give you 6. Guys, I bet not even 10 people do this. Like, have your dad do it, you do it. Like, you could win a whole bunch of bottles here. All right. They're picking 10 winners. Thank you, Lactigo. It's really cool that you did that. I know they're big fans of the podcast. So thank you guys.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Really, really cool. You know who else is really, really cool?
Jessi Feld.
Jessi Feld is really, really cool. Dude, this was honestly an unbelievable conversation. Like, we talk about taking notes. Like, get your pen and paper ready. If you're a coach, get your pen and paper ready, because there is so much unbelievable information and so many practical things that you can do with your team. And for your own coaching development that is going to be in this podcast interview. And she killed it. Like, she knocked it out of the park. And she is so good at what she does. She is so good at what she does. And this is going to help a lot of coaches out there. A lot of coaches. We all know, like, leading is leading, educating is educating, whether you're in a school, whether you're on a field, whether you're on an ice rink, whatever it may be. Like, leadership is leadership. And there are certain best practices and certain ways to get the most out of the people that you're leading. And this blew me away, man. Like, this was really, really good.
What I really like about it too is that we talked a lot about the how. A lot of coaches know the what. A lot of coaches know the what for the most part, right? How matters just as much, I think, more. How you do things matters more than what you do. And so she talked a lot about how to do things within your team and that are really, really going to help if you do some of these things. And I would challenge everyone to, if you're not doing some of these things, maybe just try 1 or 2 for a couple months and see the reaction that you get as a coach. Like, see if anything changes from buy-in and how much fun the kids are having and the experience, and are you winning more? I would say try these things, and see how it goes, and then shoot us a message when it goes well and say thank you.
Shoot her a message and say thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but like some of the practical things we talked about, like how to plan your year out, how to create an environment where people are going to develop. We talked about like how to help kids feel confident in what they do. Talked about like how like kids learning is changing all the time and how you can kind of stay up with that. I mean, there are so many practical things from this conversation that any of us can use in our lives if we're leading people. And yeah, I mean, and then this is another thing too. Like, obviously we know Jess and me, she's my sister, know her very, very well. And we talk about passion a lot on this podcast and how important passion is to becoming great at what you do. And I certainly don't know anybody with more passion to create a positive impact on our younger kids than Jess. And this has become her calling. She has, and we joked about it at the beginning of the conversation, but like, she is a mom of 4 kids, 4 boys under 7 years old. And she still is getting like new degrees because she is like, so, just so into her own professional and personal development. And man, like, I'm so proud of her. And this was just, and she should be proud of herself, right? That's something we actually talked about in the conversation. And like she
What are you
really
proud of, Jessi? You'll
she
hear
really
it.
nailed this. She really nailed this. Like this was a really, really cool conversation that's going to help a lot of people.
Boom.
Passion, man. Passion that exudes out of this one. So before we do get over to Jess, though, we do have some people to thank. First, want to thank our title sponsor, Gel Sticks. Go to gelsticks.com. That's GELSTX.com. Use the coupon code ThinkTank, one word, and you will get a discount on your weighted training sticks. Pros are using them, college are using them, junior teams are using them. Jeff's using them in the gym. The national team development program's using them. This is just such a great tool to make your shot better, become a better hockey player. So go to gelsticks.com and use the coupon code ThinkTank today.
Guys, again, I love gel sticks. I literally love gel sticks. I've been, involved with them since the day that I retired. I was talking to them before I came home from Europe that last year. And as soon as I got a gel stick in my hand, I was like, holy crap. This thing is so awesome. Why did I just retire? Like, I want to use this thing. I really, really, really do believe in it. A ton of my guys use them. A ton of my guys. One of my guys who was the KHL D-Man of the year that year, I got him a gel stick. He brought it with him to Russia, and he used it before every single game. Every single game they had the team made sure they brought it with him every single game. He loved it, got back into the NHL next year. It's not because of the gel stick, but I'm just telling you, like, it's pretty cool, that he loves it that much that he uses it before every game. Okay. Great Christmas present. That's why I was going off on that tangent. Christmas is coming up. Everybody's always like, how can I get better? I truly believe in this tool. Want to say thank you to Train Heroic. Train Heroic's the awesome platform that allows me to train all of my athletes the way I do. If your team is looking for either a call or training on the ice or off the ice, in the gym, at home, whatever it is, I can make custom training programs with videos, demonstrations, coaching, everything. It's not just a stupid PDF from 1980. Okay. Thank you to Train Heroic for that. Reach out to me. Anybody out there who wants help, I can. Also want to thank Cured Nutrition. Cured Nutrition is the CBD company I'm with. I take CBD twice a day, every day. Everybody knows I've had 14 concussions. Sometimes it comes out on this podcast. I'm sure you hear it sometimes, but
I don't know. One take Tony, man.
Yeah, that was pretty money. But it does help me quite a bit. Also helps with recovery, energy, just keeping that balance in your body. If anybody has any questions about CBD, seriously, guys, I love talking about things that I use that I know have worked for me, just so I can share my experience. I'm not trying to sell anybody on anything. I'm telling you what has worked for me. Okay. So you can reach out to me or just go to curednutrition.com and use my discount code GMBM.
Boom. Thank you to Helios Hockey. Unbelievable product. Go to helioshockey.com to find out more. But what this is, guys, is this is a sensor that you put into your shoulder pads, and it gives you real-time data and feedback directly when you're done with practice, game, training, whatever it may be. And not only do you get some data on what they like to call a hustle score and how hard you're working on the ice, which is pretty cool, but it also syncs up with video, and you can look at your stride mechanics as well. And it's a great tool to be able to teach your stride and get some feedback on your stride. We all know that skating is one of the most important skills in today's game. And so this gives you some incredible feedback on that. And the kicker, it pairs with your video. So when you're playing in a game, no longer do you have the agony of having to cut up your shifts. It is done right there for you right after the game. So after the game, you go to your iPhone, you go to your iPad, whatever you are, filming your game with. It also links up with Live Barn as well. Right after the game, boom, you have your shifts cut up and you can watch it. So awesome tool. So go to helioshockey.com. We have a discount code for you there too. And we know that you guys have been using this because Helios Hockey has been pretty pumped about the Hockey Think Tank listeners. We love you guys for that, for supporting people that support us. And again, like Vex said, we're not flinging out these discount codes and working out with these companies for nothing. Like, these people really truly make a positive impact on the hockey world and have a lot to offer. So if you go to helioshockey.com, enter the coupon code Think Tank, it will give all new Helios members 20% off their initial 12-month membership, and you will get that sensor that you put into your shoulder pads for free. So unbelievable stuff. Go to helioshockey.com, and thank you to icehockeysystems.com, the best website for anything coaching education. And actually, through the Hockey Think Tank youth organization Blueprint, one of the things that we do with the teams that we work with is we have a Tuesday call every Tuesday. And any coach within the organization can hop on that call with us, and we're just talking hockey. We have a specific topic that we do every week, and it's just continuing education. And today we were drawn up, we talked about forecheck with the coaches, and we were drawn up a lot of different forecheck type stuff by the drill drawing tool on icehockeysystems.com. So not only do you get thousands of drills, whiteboard explanation videos of hockey systems and habits and structures and things like that, but you get the ability to go in, actually draw your drills up. For people like Vex and I, who are illiterate when it comes to technology, we use it, and it's very, very easy. So you can draw up your drills, draw up your practice plans, share them with your players, share them with your parents, share them with the other coaches in the organization. It's just a phenomenal tool. We have partnered with them to do an associations platform where you can get this for every single coach within your organization. Again, sharing practice plans, sharing drills together, sharing different ideas and things you like. That's on the site and stuff like that. But not just the coaches, the parents as well, because they have access to the Hockey Think Tank Parent Survival Guide. And so guarantee you, for all the hockey directors out there, you will get less emails and less angry phone calls from parents when they have this. So go to icehockeysystems.com today. Check out the association's platform. These guys are amazing. They do an unbelievable service for the hockey world as well. So lastly, thank you to all of our listeners. We love you guys so much. Honestly, like, this is one of my favorite episodes ever that we've done, not just because it's my sister and I love her, but because the information that she shares with us is absolutely game-changing for anybody that's leading people. So without further ado, here we go with my sister, Jessi Feld. It may be too early to start decorating for the holidays, but it's never too early to start your holiday shopping. Why not take care of it now before the crowds and packed calendars make shopping a total nightmare, especially when you can get some of the best deals of the season well before Black Friday. You can shop Raycon products right now and save up to 50% off because their early Black Friday sale is going on now. Raycon first made a name for themselves in the audio space with products like their everyday earbuds, known for delivering high quality and thoughtful features like a 32-hour battery life and a perfect in-ear fit for all day wear and lasting comfort. And this past year, they expanded their entire business with the introduction of Raycon Home and Raycon Power Tech. Their 5-star reviewed Magic 180 cable allows you to charge iOS, micro USB, and Type-C devices 8 times faster with 100-watt power delivery. Raycon is known for delivering high-quality and thoughtful features at half the price of other premium tech brands. It's no wonder their products have racked up tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. To get everyone in on the holiday shopping spirit a bit early, Raycon is currently offering 20% off everything on their site with select products up to 50% off. So beat the crowds and save now. Trust me, you do not want to miss out on Raycon's early Black Friday sale. Hurry now to buyraycon.com/THPN to get 20 to 50% off site-wide. That's buyraycon.com/THPN to score up to 50% off Raycon products. BUYRAYCON.com/THPN. We are so excited to have on this episode of the podcast. We got a blood lineage here. My sister, the one, the only, Jessica Lynn Feld. Jess, what's going on today?
Nothing. We're putting the kids to bed, and it's been a crazy day of work and school and sports, but here we are.
So for our listeners that don't know, my beautiful sister has 4 kids, all boys. Oldest is 7 years old. She's in some stuff right now. She is absolutely in it. Jess, do you remember? I tell people this all the time, but I'll say it on the podcast here. Do you remember when you told me that you were having child number 4?
I do.
Do you remember my reaction?
I do. It was similar to my husband's reaction when I told him I wanted a fourth. But yeah, I think for a moment you might have thought that like you thought Emma was pregnant with a fourth because you looked absolutely horrified at what was coming.
I was. And I think I rather than congratulations being the first word that came out of my mouth, I think it was something to the effect like, what? Are you nuts? But Nolan is a little beauty, and you got an awesome group of kids there. So very, very funny. So we got you on the podcast. You are a teacher with how many degrees?
A few.
She's got like 9 degrees, people. Not 9, but probably pretty close to 9. And so I'm really looking forward to diving into I think a lot of youth coaches and coaches in general are going to get a lot out of this, because whenever I am talking to coaches, and I say this to people all the time, like in my own development as a coach, I'm speaking to fewer, I'm speaking to fewer hockey coaches, and I'm speaking to more educators, more teachers, because coaching is not just knowing X's and O's. Coaching is knowing how to motivate. Coaching is knowing how to put together practice plans. Coaching is knowing how to put together a plan for a season, personality stuff, and things like that. And teachers literally go to school for 4 years, sometimes 65 years, like my sister, and get all these degrees on that kind of thing. So I'm really looking forward to diving into that. But first, for our listeners, this woman on the other side of the screen right now, she's got the dirt. She's got the dirt on Jeffrey J. Hulavecchio and myself. And so I don't know why I'm doing this, but I have to ask you first. You have to have some sort of embarrassing story about me or about Vex at some point. And I'm giving you the floor right now to just give us crap.
There's so much. I have to choose just one.
Just for now. Just maybe we'll do another podcast with you, and you could be just giving us shit. But just for now, go ahead.
Well,
just
I need Samantha with me for that one too.
Ooh, that's true. Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess if I have to pick just one, Topher, I don't know if your listeners know this story already or not, but this super organized, put together fellow that you see in front of you at one point maybe was not so super organized because he missed his college recruiting flight, Topher Scott, to Cornell because he did not know how to read a plane ticket to understand when the plane was taking off or when to be at the airport. So
our dog. What? Were you like 20
True
at the time?
True story. I missed my first recruiting trip to Cornell.
What'd you tell him?
Well, I think I can't remember completely. It's been a lot of years since it happened, but I think I read like the landing time rather than like the leaving time. And Jess will give me crap, but like I think like email was new. And so I was just like kind of trying to figure out.
A lot of people missed flights before.
True.
Email.
True. And so I remember that morning I I called one of the coaches and I was like, hey, getting ready to go. I think I asked him like what airline I was on. And he was like, oh, you're on whatever, United. And also your flight leaves in like a half an hour. Are you sure you're going to make it? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm just looking up your stuff right here. I'm supposed to get you. And I'm like, so my mom, like, Jess, would you say it's the maddest she's ever been at me?
I think it's the maddest she's ever been at any one of her children, including Dad.
She wanted to kill me because she had to, like, I don't know, all you hockey moms out there will know this. She had plans of things that she had to get done that day that got completely derailed because then she had to take me to the airport at that time. And so I ended up going to the airport. Mom was wearing Max and Jake's like 12-year-old sandals and like running around the airport with me. So like we eventually get there and I end up going on standby to try and get out there. But like Ithaca is not exactly they're not taking big planes out to Ithaca. So usually they're small and full. So I couldn't get on a standby flight. So I legit did not go on my first visit to Cornell and we had to reschedule another one. And
How
so
have I never heard this before?
I don't know. I'm surprised you haven't. But
Wow.
yeah, so I missed my first visit, but it ended up working out because I ended up going there and
Like a goal horn. It sounded like a fog.
that is very embarrassing. That's an embarrassing story for sure. Get Vex's turn now.
I don't know. I mean,
So,
you did live with
now-
us for a year, and I feel like there's a lot of stuff there.
There's probably just like great stuff. I don't know.
Well, here, I mean, there's one thing I'm thinking about. I don't know if you would admit it to this day, but there may or may not have been some booze found in the backyard behind a tree.
Definitely not mine.
Cooler. However, it was after a party or when the Vecchio crew was over, and it was in the cooler that my mom uses to pack Max and Jake's special food. Topher and I knew very well enough to not touch that cooler, but somehow, I don't know, alcohol ended up in there, and nobody claimed it.
Well, for sure it wasn't me because I definitely was not drinking back then, but 100% was probably one of my friends, and for definitely also guilty of some nights when your whole family would go to a Chicago Steel game. I knew I had the house alone for 4 hours. So I took advantage a couple times. I can't lie.
When the Scots are away, Vex is going to play. There you go.
Yeah, threw a couple small shakers, nothing bad, but apparently somebody forgot to throw their trash away.
And put the trash in Max and Jake's Oh, that's awesome. I love it. All right, well, let's get to the meat of the podcast here now that we've been subdued to a little bit of shenanigans. So Jess, you are a teacher. You are an administrator, not just a teacher, and you've held a lot of different hats. But I'm interested to know, like, we're big on this podcast about finding your passion. And when you find your passion, going for it and putting everything you have into it, and that is certainly you to a T. What got you so passionate about educating? What gets you so passionate about teaching and making a positive impact on these kids' lives?
Well, like what got me so passionate, I'm not sure. I feel like I was born this way. I was like that weird kid doing math problems with Max and Jake at the dinner table. I would put like a hooked on phonics program into my wagon and like wheel it over to Tara's house to teach her how to read. So I think I always just naturally had an interest in that type of stuff. But believe it or not, Mom is actually the one that kind of guided me to it unknowingly. And I think just like the way we grew up and with understanding that people learn differently and some people get the help they need and some people don't, I wanted to make sure that everybody got the help they needed always. And so that's kind of what I think led me to this path. And now that I'm here, I think that's still what drives me is the world is changing, education is changing, how kids learn is changing. And I just want to make sure that everybody can reach their fullest potential and that everybody, like it's different, I guess, like through the different stages that I've gone in between like when I was a teacher and I was really focused in on my students and how they were learning and what their goals were and what their family's goals were. And how do I make sure that they feel confident in themselves? And how do I make sure that they don't get discouraged by their challenges to help them learn? And now as an administrator, it's how do I help my staff see the strengths in every child that they work with? How do I help my staff work with their kids, their families, their coworkers to overcome the challenges in education to make sure that all kids have access to a high quality education and that everybody believes in them?
I love that. Well, confidence is something that we talk about, Vex, every episode, pretty much. And so I would actually love to get your take because you mentioned you want to make sure that in your classroom, your kids are feeling confident about themselves. It's the exact same as a coach in hockey or whatever sport that you're coaching. And so how do you go about trying to instill some of that confidence in the kids that you're teaching? Maybe some of the kids that learn at a higher level, but then also maybe some of the kids where it might take them a little bit longer and they're maybe not academically as inclined as some of the other people in their classrooms.
Yeah. So a big term right now in education is called strengths-based learning. And that's where you identify a kid's strengths and then build off of that to support their learning and their education. So whether you have a kid who's like super interested in, let's say, hockey, you bring that into the learning environment to motivate them to read, to write, to do math, different things like that. But then it's also like, there's two parts, right? Like there's the academic learning part, and then there's the social emotional learning part too. And so not just highlighting a child's strengths within themselves, but highlighting their strengths with their peers and their classmates also. And using them as a leader in a moment. So like if you know that one kid is really has a lot of skills in like critical thinking and problem solving, you might put them with a peer that doesn't have necessarily those strengths in a group, so that like other kids can see what their strengths are.
Interesting. And like you mentioned that, like when you say that, what comes to mind for me is like the best way to learn is to teach. Is there some crossover with that? Like, is that something that in what you're talking about of trying to pair people together with certain strengths and stuff like that, is there some validity to that?
Yeah, I would say that's like in my mind, the way that I'm thinking about it, I would say it's a different thing. Like when you talk about like learning or truly understanding a skill or a concept, we follow like the I do, we do, you do model. Like once you understand it so well, then you can teach it to somebody else. Then you really understand something, right? So like in school, if you really understand double-digit multiplication and you can teach it to somebody else, then like you feel confident in doing it. You can do it, and other kids can see that you can do it. Same thing with like a skill in hockey. I mean, I don't know, like you're working on, I don't know what skills you work on, like stick handling, shooting. That's my extent of my knowledge.
Skating, skating maybe, Jess? Skating? You do that in hockey too.
If you think about like the kids on your team, if they are really strong in something, or maybe even if they're not strong in something, but you want to build their confidence, use them as a model to demonstrate something, and then they'll feel really good about it. And then they'll feel more motivated to work harder and keep trying that skill that might be really challenging for them.
I love that. Something I'll do in the gym or in practice or anything like that is when I do that, as they're demonstrating, I have all the kids clap. Like, come on, let's hear it for him. Let's hear it for Sammy. Sammy just killed it. And all the kids start clapping and going nuts. And, they feel good. Then they want to, participate more and keep trying and putting themselves out there and whatever. I love that.
And Jess, as we're kind of talking about this too, like, how important is it to one of the other things that's really big in like the youth hockey development world, I would imagine maybe it's part of your world too, is like success versus failure rate. So like, how can you plan lessons, or how can you, plan drills where you're almost manipulating how often they're going to succeed at that skill and how often they're going to fail, and what the appropriate challenge point is. Is that something that you guys talk about in the education world? Because like, in order to get better at something, there has to be a little bit of getting outside the comfort zone. There has to be a little bit of push, but there also can't be too much where all of a sudden we're losing confidence because we're failing all the time at doing that skill. So is that something that you talk about inside the classroom as well?
It's really interesting that you like put it that way. So that's absolutely something we talk about inside the classroom. It's less of something that we do when we're setting up like academic learning though, right? Like social emotional learning is a huge part of education. It's booming in education. Kids want to give more and be more.
Oh, yes.
Toph, if you didn't laugh, the people who are listening not on YouTube wouldn't even know why she said that. Thank you, Jess. Great plug. Well done.
Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about? So with the academics, we talk about like just right learning, and you want to challenge them because you want them to continue to grow. I think there's less talk when you're teaching academics to talk about like that success failure rate and providing those like more challenging opportunities that they might fail at. But we talk about that a lot when we're talking about social emotional learning. And right now, I think in education, what we're really trying to do is figure out how to weave in social emotional learning throughout the entire day, right? Like you can't just like sit down for 30 minutes and be like, we're going to learn about overcoming our challenges, or we're going to sit down and talk about becoming a friend. So I think it would be interesting to go back to teachers and think about like, hey, would you maybe set up a few lessons that you know kids might fail at so that they can, one, figure out how to overcome that challenge or figure out how to struggle, right? Like grit is a really big thing. Like a lot of kids these days are having a hard time with grit and perseverance. So thinking about the academics or thinking about practice and setting up opportunities that you know are challenging, I think would make a lot of sense.
Is that something you're seeing? Troubles with grit and perseverance? Because we've talked about that on the podcast before and talked about is that what we're seeing, or is it our fault? What's happening? Is that something you're seeing?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know the why behind it. I mean, I have like a million different theories and I could go down a deep rabbit hole. But essentially, like to nerd out for a second, like the data that we collect in schools is showing us that there's a lack of grit and perseverance in our youth today. Like they do different like self-assessments that are nationally normed, and a lot of kids do not have, like, they self-assess that they don't have grit or perseverance. Like it's hard for them to overcome challenges. So that's constantly something in school that we're trying to figure out how to support them in and how to teach them. And that it's okay to fail. And it's okay if somebody doesn't step in and help you right away. It's okay if something's really hard and you get really frustrated. But it's really hard for kids, especially when those things are happening next to your peers, right? Nobody wants to look like they're struggling. So we try and normalize that.
So I have a theory on this, Jess, and I want to see if this translates to your world. But we live in the world of hockey, youth hockey, and I get into heated debates with, let's call them old school coaches, because people talk about the kids of today. Like the kids of today are soft. The kids of today are not mentally tough. And I actually it's interesting to hear you say that, because what I've kind of said is like, I don't really agree with that. I don't think kids today are more soft or less mentally tough. I think they're more afraid to fail. And the reason why they're more afraid to fail is because of the pressure that is on these kids to perform and the pressure that are on these kids to succeed from younger and younger and younger levels. Like, when kids are 7, 8, 9 years old, hockey used to be fun. Now at 7, 8, 9 years old, they got parents in the stands that are screaming. They got coaches and expectations and all this kind of stuff. And so rather than put their full self out there, i.e. working really hard, they're not, because they don't want to deal with the embarrassment or the failure of letting, an overbearing parent down or an overbearing coach down. So I don't know if there's any validity to that. That's just my opinion. That's not based on any sort of research or anything. But I feel like that's why kids, they don't, I don't want to say don't work hard, but they just don't put everything they have into things because they don't want to fail.
Yeah, I see that. And I also see too, parents don't want their kids to fail. So parents also have a hard time watching their kids struggle and not stepping in, not letting them sit in that struggle and stepping in too soon too. And part of that could be because it's hard to watch your kids struggle, or part of that is parent schedules, right? If you have one kid, you've got a lot of kids, you got to move from point A to point B really quickly, and you don't necessarily have time for your kid to struggle either. So parents are stepping in. I think about it even with my own kids, right? With Jackson, we were so much more figure it out, you can do it, struggle through it, try it again. But as we've had more kids, to be honest, sometimes it's just oh, that's hard for you. Okay, here.
Just out of this time necessity.
Yeah. And I think without realizing it, sometimes I don't want to deal with a meltdown, right? This is or I know this is going to cause something really hard that's going to happen in our day. And it could be me trying to protect them from it, but it's also it's hard for them. It's hard for me. And sometimes my natural reaction is just to step in and eliminate the challenge for them. And so I have to think, right? Because social emotional learning and grit and perseverance, all of this is so important to me. And it is to Ryan too. but like I have to make a conscious effort to think about like, I can't step in right now. And sometimes I'll have to like distract myself or go walk away or like count to 10 in my head or something. Like I have to give myself a strategy so that I can provide the time to let my kids struggle.
I love that. Are there any more strategies you have? Because I also think that this is great for hockey parents to hear, like when they want to yell at the ice or their kids out there and learn to skate, and they're, this should be a place of learning and fun. And your kid is 5, barely walking on the ice. You don't need to like go out there and do everything for them. So do you have any, like you said, sometimes you'll count to 10 or something or walk away? Any tips like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of tips, but I also think it's about like understanding like a parent's need to do those things, right? Like obviously, like when people are reacting in those ways, sometimes they have like a lot of energy that they have to get out. So it's like, do you have to walk away? Do you have to like change your mindset instead like of shouting something negative, shout something positive? Should you like bring a journal with you to practice and write down all the things that are making you pissed off as opposed to yelling them out onto the ice? I think like whatever's going on or whatever your reason is for doing or saying those things, you can
see
find
people so angry, just God, my kid, writing in their notebooks. It would be way better than them yelling at kid reps or
somebody's making one of those voodoo dolls and like sticking a needle in it.
Okay, as long as they're not yelling on
hey, whatever ice. Works for them, right?
Right.
Well, I think that's actually a really interesting point, and I've been like reading a lot about psychology and parenting recently, having 3 kids and struggling through it. Like hopefully everybody else is. Hopefully I'm not the only one. And we project our own issues onto our kids, man. Like a lot of times when we're yelling or we're not yelling at the kid, we're wrong with us. Or I don't want to say something's wrong with us, but there's something in us that needs to come out. And I think like just self-awareness and just like kind of like, when you're getting angry or when you're getting riled up about whatever the situation is, it could be with your kids on the ice or it could be anything in life, like just understanding kind of like why you're doing that and having a little bit of self-awareness, I think can go a long way for that too. Because I know like when I kind of read that and kind of dug into that, like I've been a better parent and I'm able to handle some of the tougher moments as a parent, knowing what my issues are and why I'm getting so upset in certain situations. Yeah. And like, it's like led to honestly, like so much better mental health for myself, because we know like as parents, maybe you not Vex, you're getting there. But like as parents, like it's hard. Like it's hard and it takes a lot of energy and like we can be super critical of ourselves all the time. And I think just like digging deeper into the why that happens, I don't know. I think it goes a long way. Or Jess, would you like, is there any educational stuff that would back that up, having learned about some of this stuff?
No, yeah, definitely. Self-awareness is a huge thing. And I think also too with that, like the vulnerability to accept that like, hey, I'm not perfect and I am yelling and maybe I shouldn't be doing that, right? Like I think a lot of times too, when like people's behavior, positive or negative, like continues to repeat. So there's a self-awareness piece too, but then there's that like acceptance and vulnerability that like, hey, I really shouldn't be acting this way. Like, it's not going to, like, I can sit here and say out, like, I'm yelling, but I'm not going to change my behavior until I can say like, hey, but that behavior is not okay. And now I have to do the work to fix it. So I think there's that piece of it too. Like you have to be self-aware and then you have to be vulnerable enough to say like, okay, so this isn't working and I have to change it.
Yeah. I like it.
Reflection.
Okay, well, let's get to some of the meat of being a successful teacher / coach, because I think the two are very intertwined. I'm wondering, and just in terms of like how you plan out your year. So if like you're a teacher or a coach and you have some goals, you have a way that you see things kind of ending up at the end of the year with your classroom or with your team, what are some specific strategies? Maybe it's goal setting. I have no idea. Like what are some strategies that you can potentially use to kind of map some things out? Because VEX is really big on like starting at the end and then regressing back. And like, this is what I want to see at the end. Okay, how do we reverse engineer that and then build a plan up to eventually hopefully get there? So like, what are some things that you do as a teacher to map that out?
So to be honest, I think I used less of those skills as a teacher and more of those skills as an administrator. So sometimes I feel like I should have been an administrator first and then a teacher. I feel like I would have been a better teacher. But I think the biggest thing, like you said, is goal setting. But really, it's like starting with the end in mind, like beginning with where you want to be at the end of the year, and then backwards mapping and setting discrete goals in order to get there. So by the end of first grade, I want all kids to be able to read these types of words. By the end of third grade, all students should be able to have a conversation with their peers and problem solve around challenges that arise in their day, right? Like whatever it is. And then what discrete skills do you need in order to get there? And how do those skills build off of each other? And then what are my students' interests and what are fun ways that I can teach these skills? And then having like checkpoints throughout the year. So, I mean, my early childhood team right now, we're really working towards inclusive practices. And it's really, I have like a very forward thinking, motivated team. So it's really exciting. But I've had to think about like, by the end of the year, what do we want our programming to look like? And then what are the goals we're going to set along the way? And then what professional development, what teaching opportunities do I need to provide for my team to engage in order to get there? And then, right, like we just finished our first trimester. So we looked at our student data. We looked at like the types of lessons that our teachers are implementing. We looked at their collaboration. And are we meeting goals in all those areas? And if we're not, we have to kind of reset and replan in order to get there for the end of the year.
Awesome. So can we use, like you mentioned, a first grader being able to read certain words like at the end of the year? Can we just like maybe use that example, reverse engineer that? So like I want my first grader to be able to read, I don't know, they call them tricky words in Paige's first grade class. But whatever the words are.
What's a tricky word?
I don't.
It's a non-decodable word. So like a word that you can't sound out.
Oh, okay. There you go. I should probably know that. She actually loves doing homework, which is really cool. She like really enjoys doing homework, which is kind of wild. She gets that from her mother. Anyways, so like the goal at the end is to have them reading these types of words. Can you give us an example, walk us through kind of like the beginning of the year, the setting of the goals to get to that point?
For like a particular student, for a whole class. Do you know the kid? Do you not know the kid? I mean, there's so many things.
So this is very good information because
we can do it.
No, that's really good actually, because I mean, everybody's different, right? Everybody learns differently. That's one of the things that you even mentioned in the beginning of our conversation was everybody learns differently. And learning is always changing. And so, I don't know, pick like, let's say you have I don't know. It would be
I'll
better
just
for
go
you
off the fly. I'll wing it. I'll wing it, and you ask questions along the way.
Okay.
Well, I like the first thing that you do is you have to get a temperature check on where they're currently at, right? So I need to know where my whole class is in their reading, right? Like, do they know their letter names? Do they know their letter sounds? Are they able to blend sounds together? Do they have phonemic awareness skills? Are they able to manipulate sounds? To really show an understanding of like their oral proficiency, their language skills, things like that. So I would probably do, I'd do like a baseline assessment to see where everybody is at. And then that'll kind of tell me where are my students performing, where are my kids that are performing higher, where are my kids that are performing in the middle, and where are my kids that are performing lower. And then making sure that I have diverse learning opportunities every single day so I can meet each kid's needs, right? And you have like an overall lesson, right? Like here's the big concept for today. Here's what all kids need to know. And then here's where each kid is at. So this is the instruction I need to provide this group. This is the instruction I need to provide this group. And this is the instruction I need to provide this group to make sure every kid is getting what they need. Everybody is going to get something of the same because I have high expectations for all my kids, and they're all going to be able to learn and benefit from this lesson. But then everybody's going to respond to it. So I'm going to have some kids that I'm not going to need to do extension activities for. I'm going to have some kids who are going to be right there just with practice. And then I have some kids who I'm going to have to spend more time with to really dig into those skills so that they can learn and continue to grow at the same rate as their peers.
That's really interesting. And I almost liken that to like a hockey practice and almost like station-based practices. And go ahead, Vex. Yeah.
I was just thinking too, like, how she regressed that. If you at tryouts are when everybody's evaluating players, you also had like some criteria that you wanted each player to have a score on. Then whatever team each player makes, they're going to get that scorecard from all the different coaches. And then you could, take the average scores and you would know what buckets each player falls into right away to start the season. And you could see, okay, like our skating, we've got half the team at a 9 out of a 10, but the other half of the team's around like a 4 to 5. So we're going to have to work on skating. We're going to have to work on this. I just think for efficiency's sake, I was like, okay, how can we apply that to hockey? And if you're already doing the tryouts and you're already evaluating the players and you're bringing in other people to evaluate them, like Toph has talked about before, bringing in outside eyes, so you don't have that whole political, all favoritism, whatever. We brought in outside eyes. Well, now just make that part of the process. And now it'll make it much easier for step one that Jessi talked about. You already know where your benchmarks are for the players on your team. So I just thought like that could be like an easy way to kind of like sneak that in for any coaches or directors out there.
Yeah. And then like going further than that too, is just making sure that every time you come to the ice, you have a clear plan of what your goal is. And you might have a different goal for every kid or a different goal for different groups of kids. But again, like planning with the end in mind. Where do you want to end up at the end of the lesson? Where do you want to end up at the end of the week? Where do you want to end up at the end of the first half of the year? And then backwards map from there.
That's great. Do you have any tips on goal setting? We've talked about goal setting a lot in this conversation already. What are some tips that you can give to some teachers or give to some educators, coaches, mentors on how to set goals, appropriate goals for themselves, number one, and then for the kids as well?
Well, for yourself, you have to be reflective. Look at your practice. A lot of teachers reflect on their lesson plans. They look at student data, or they just reflect on like what is going well in the classroom and what is not, and setting goals around that. For the kids, it's really important to set goals around things that are meaningful to them. And now coaches might guide that, right? Like you might use the information that you collect at tryouts, or you might use the information that you collect during different practices to identify things that they're really great in, and then identify things that they might need to continue to grow in, and giving them some choices like, hey, you're really awesome at, X, Y, and Z. You do like, you're fantastic with this. You help your teammates with this. This is really great. Here are like 3 things that I could see that you could continue to grow in. Of these 3 things, what is important to you to make growth in? And kind of letting them choose what's important to them. And then, okay, so right now, this is what it looks like, right? Like if we're going to go back to the reading example, like right now you can read 4 tricky words, right? And there's 30 tricky words that we need to learn. So let's say and then like helping them map it out, right? Like in 3 weeks, how many tricky words do you think you'll be able to read? Like you should be able to read, letting them set the number. Okay. So in order to read 15 tricky words at the end of the next 3 weeks, what do you think you need to do in order to get there?
I love that.
You need to practice. What do you focus on when you're at practice? What do you do when you're at home? How do you practice these skills at home? How much time do you spend on it? And then like my kids coach recently just gave him a journal to reflect on after practices. And like secretly as an educator, that's like any way you can get a kid to write that's meaningful also, right? Like give your team, like give the kids on your team a journal and they can write it like, hey, this week I did really well with my goal because I worked on X, Y, and Z. Next week, I want to work on this to help continue to reach my goal.
There's so much good stuff in that, Vex. There's so much good stuff in that. I've always found as a coach, like it is such a game changer when you involve the players or you involve the kids in the planning.
Yeah.
There's just so much more buy-in and so much more excitement to it when they feel like they're a part of the goal setting and the learning, rather than coach told me to do this, so I need to do this. Teacher told me I need to do this, so I need to do this. And
coaches, listen to this.
It really is so important, I think.
It's massive. It's not like it sounds bad, but it's like you got to learn how to push the right buttons. So like you as a coach, if your goal is to win more games, right? And develop the players, whatever it is, you are going to win way more games if you take just a couple of extra minutes, every day to do things and exercises like this, because you will get a much better outcome because the player, they're not buying into you. They want to do it for themselves and you're helping them see that. All you're doing is uncovering that, figuring out, what you need to say to get them to think about that. And then they're off to the races versus do this because I said so. I've literally seen this for 30 years, and it's massively important, and you will get more out of your players, both from them giving more to their practices, their at-home stuff, whatever, their workouts, all that, because it's them wanting to do it versus do this because I said so. I literally promise it'll be a massive difference in your team.
So, Jess, I have something for you because I had a real aha moment today. It was really, really cool. And so I was talking to Maddie Thomas, who's working me with the Hockey Think Tank now. And we were talking about a bunch of different stuff. And we were talking about parenting, I think. And he said, and I would love to get your take on this, that his wife gives him crap because he tells his kids all the time, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. When they do something good, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. And she's like, no. You don't say I'm proud of you. You say you should be proud of yourself for accomplishing X. You should be proud of yourself for doing whatever. And I feel like that's kind of similar to the conversation that we're having right now, but this literally just happened today. So I would love to get your thoughts on this, because when I heard that, when you say that, I was like, oh my God, like that makes so much freaking sense. And so as an educator, just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, no, yes, 100 times. I like, if you do nothing else, right? Like you don't want kids to be extrinsically motivated. You want them to be intrinsically motivated. And when you get comments like, I'm so proud of you, like their pride is reliant on like when you tell them they're proud of you, right? And I don't like nobody's doing anything wrong. Like I don't think anybody like thought about it that way. But yeah, you want them to be proud of themselves. And so Jackson, my oldest, sometimes he has a big ego. So people might not know this outside of our house, but there are times where he does lack confidence and he struggles with it. And so every night before he goes to bed, I always say to him, you should be really proud of yourself for X. And I think about a hard moment that he had in that day. And I say, you should be really proud of yourself for X. You should be really proud of yourself for, working through not getting as much TV time as you wanted. I mean, I'm right, whatever it is that was hard for him. And then slowly transitioning it to hey, what are you proud of yourself for today?
Love that. That's progressing it to the next level. That's genius. Genius.
Genius. Jessi, you're not you're kind of movie, but you're not quite to our level with movie quotes.
I am nowhere near your level. You need Samantha for that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
She's pretty good. She's got a lot of them.
They were Jess, you mentioned that they were cones. That's probably the movie line we use the most on this.
We use it a lot.
They were cones.
Great line.
Yeah. Okay. So Jess, you mentioned earlier in the podcast, and I kind of wrote a note down to get back to it a little bit later. and you mentioned how kids are learning is always changing. How kids are learning is always changing. So I'm wondering what that means. Like, how are kids changing in how they're taking in information, how they're learning? I will leave it there. I'm not going to sound dumb. How are kids learning, changing? Go.
Yeah. So I don't know what like the next iteration is going to be after this, but like specifically, so I got to think about it in the educational world, and then I got to figure out how to apply it to like other things. But like kids nowadays, they don't have to learn, like they don't have to sit and memorize content, I guess, right? Like, because we have the internet now, like you can look anything up. Like now in education, we have to teach kids how to read because we access our information through reading, right? But outside of that, like we want to teach our kids to be problem solvers. We want to teach our kids to be critical thinkers. And you can do that in so many different ways, right? Like you don't have to be able to recite factual information, but the factual information that you're learning, why is that information important? And then how are you going to apply that to something? So it's less about like, I'm going to give you this information and you're going to learn it, and more about like setting up learning opportunities that kids can explore and practice skills and learn information that is meaningful to them.
The NFL season is going strong, and DraftKings Sportsbook is hooking new customers up with an offer that's even stronger. Bet $5 on any game this week to score $200 instantly in bonus bets. And DraftKings isn't stopping there. All customers can take advantage of a sweetener offer every game day this October. Get in on the game day greatness. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets when you bet $5 on the NFL. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. Please play responsibly. I love that. Yeah, that's like, it's just teaching kids how to think.
Yeah.
And have an opinion and be able to work through stuff themselves, having to work through stuff together with other people, which kind of ties into the social emotional learning that you were talking about a little bit earlier. And so can you give us an example, like in the classroom, of how you can provide opportunities in the classroom for kids to critically think through stuff, solve problems?
Yeah. So like a lot of it too is giving kids the autonomy to learn in a way that they want to learn. So it could be as simple as like, hey, what do you want to learn about? And they might say like, I want to learn about hand dryers. And you're like, great. How are you going to learn about hand dryers? And they say, I'm going to research it on the internet. I'm going to take a survey about what people think about hand dryers. And I'm going to go into the bathroom and I'm going to study what those hand dryers are. And then you have kids reading. And I'm thinking about this because I actually had a student who was really interested in hand dryers.
Awesome.
But what's amazing about it, like he was so interested in hand dryers, right? So he went on the internet and he read all this information about how you build them, how they work, what the different models are, what the cost of each one is, which one is most effective. Then he went around and tested the different types of hand dryers we had in the building. Then he went and talked to his classmates and did a survey and talked to teachers about like which hand dryers are most effective and are paper towels or hand dryers better. And then after he did all this research, he put a presentation together, and then he wrote a letter to our superintendent proposing that the district changed their system in the bathroom to these better hand dryers, right? And it's something that like to us might seem like so silly. And it's something I think that's so easy for like a kid to come to you and be like, I want to learn about hand dryers. It's so easy for a teacher to think like, that's silly. Like, we're going to learn about this instead. But if that's what's motivating to them, we got them to read, we got them to research, we got them to ask critical questions, we got them to engage in conversation with other people, we got them to problem solve. Like, there's so many we got them to advocate for certain things, right? Put a plan together, organize. There's so many things that came out of one kid saying, I want to learn about hand dryers.
That's really cool. Thanks, you're on mute.
That's so cool. He's the kind of kid that's literally going to invent like a better way to do something that is done every day, like the toilet paper roll or something, and just be a billionaire. He's going to be like, there's a better way. Bing, bang, boom. Here it is. Survey, bang, learned it at school. And now he's a billionaire. It's going to happen. That kid, like that line of thinking was so cool to hear.
How old is the kid?
He was in 3rd grade at the time, 3rd or 4th grade.
Oh, baby genius.
I know, right? It's like so cool. So I guess like too, if I'm thinking about like, so also in the classroom, right, there's different ways to learn skills, or there's different ways to attack a project or things like that. And so what we want to do as educators is we want to teach them different ways that you can practice skills, or different ways that you can tackle a problem. So I'm thinking about like a hockey practice, right? Like if you want to practice skating, like I'm sure you guys like change it up, right? Like there's different ways to practice skating. There's different ways to practice passing. There's different ways. So like you can also like teach your players, like here's all these different ways that we can practice these skills. And then at the beginning of practice, you say to your team, like, what's our team plan for today? We need to practice skating, shooting, and passing. How are we going to do that? And then they come up with how they're going to do it based on the things that you've already taught them.
You've done that
and that's
before,
what their
haven't
practice
you,
looks like.
I have done that for practices with my teams, my youth
remember you
teams,
talking
where
about that.
the day before, like we practice Tuesday, Wednesday, and on Tuesday after practice, I say, okay, you guys got practice tomorrow. Like I'll blow the whistles and I'll still coach, but you guys come up with a plan. And honestly, like when I did that, we had our best practices. Literally every time we had our best practices, because they were doing drills that were fun, but they were also like, it was one of those things, right, where they were like, we got to think like a coach too. And there's certain things that we got to work on, you know? And so,
great.
but like, yeah, you empower them to, you know, be the teacher and go through it. Let me ask you this, Jess, because like, there's got to be a balance, right? Like there's got to be a balance. You can't just put kids in a classroom and say, what do you want to learn, and go. You have to guide them. And also you're not just worried about one kid, you're worried about 15 to 20 kids that are in your classroom. So how, as a teacher, because coaches talk about it all this time, like we'd love to give individual attention all the time to every kid, but you just can't.
Yeah.
So how do you strike that balance? I would imagine obviously using your teacher's age or quote unquote assistant coaches is a big part of that, but also like, what are some strategies? What are some things that you can do to provide that little bit of balance of individual attention, but also keeping it on the rails, you know, with the whole group?
Yeah, I think that's like you utilize your people. And again, you think about like your whole group versus your small group. Are there some drills that you guys do as a whole? Like everybody's going to work on these things. And then now we're going to break into groups and we're going to work on these different drills. And I'm going to work directly with this group. And maybe like they're doing different, like maybe every time they get to your rotation, maybe every time they get to your station, you're working on the thing that is hard for that group. And then when they're off at those other stations, they're working on things that are easy for them. Or you do mixed ability grouping and you make sure there's a couple leaders in each group on each of the skills that you're doing, and they can model and they can support each other through it.
That's awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, that's really, really good, because I know that's one thing when you talk about autonomy and things, like coaches, they, and I'm sure teachers do too, when they first hear that, they kind of cringe. They're like, oof. because I do think, but I think this is a relevant conversation, because I think most coaches overcoach. Most coaches overcoach rather than letting and there's a balance, right? Like you have to coach, you have to correct, you have to give criticism constructively. It's a learning process. And it's a delicate balance between letting them figure it out, which is happening a lot more today than it was when we were growing up, which I think is great, but it can't go so far. You also have to be there to guide the rails a little bit, whether that is individually or as a group.
Yeah. And I think it's important to know which kids need that direct instruction or that like direct teaching on a skill and which kids don't. Because there are some kids who are just naturally going to learn or pick it up. And there are some kids that are going to need more help with certain things. And so like naturally, right? Like what did mom always say to us growing up? Like equal isn't everybody getting the same thing. Equal is everybody getting what they need. And like, so if people can like back off of like, well, you spent this much time with my kid and you spent this much time with the other kid and you spent this much time with this player, as opposed to like, oh yeah, that kid, like he needs more help. So like in order for him to have the same opportunities as everybody else, he needs more of my attention. Like this kid can really excel. He needs me for a few minutes to be able to make sure that he's doing the skill right. And then he can go off and he can try all these other things and be creative and be independent and continue to thrive in that way. And they're both getting what they need, but in different ways, because not everybody needs the same thing.
Vex, what do you think?
Such a good point. How hard is it to scale that? Like, is this possible for coaches of teams of 20?
Yeah, I mean, classroom teachers do it in classrooms of 25 to 30. So it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work. You got to know your kids. You got to know where they're at. You got to know what your plan is. You got to know what your goal is for that day, for that week, for that couple months, whatever it is. Like it takes a lot of preparation and planning. But once you have it, and once you have like a system and a routine down, then it gets a lot easier.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, Jess, we've been on for almost an hour now, but there's one specific question that I wanted to ask you that I think is maybe the most important one. And, you know, all the research will show you that people progress and people develop more in safe environments. And environments where they feel like they can be themselves, environments where they feel like they can go out on a limb and get outside their comfort zone, have an opinion without the fear of judgment, without the fear of reprisal and things like that. So that's huge, I'm sure, in the classroom. How do you as an educator create an environment that's conducive for the development of the kids? I'm sure you'll talk about social emotional stuff. I'm sure you'll talking about different things and different strategies that you can use with space. I don't know, like there's certain things that I think of as it relates to like culture and teams and stuff, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say in creating that type of environment in the classroom.
Well, I mean, it starts with relationship building. You have to have a relationship and you have to build trust with your players, with your students, with each other, in order for somebody to feel safe in that environment. And it's twofold, right? Because like they have to feel safe with you, but they also have to feel safe within a group. So it's really important for whoever the coach or teacher is to spend time building a relationship with the kids, but then also spending time teaching the kids and setting up the environment so that like they are trusting and respectful of each other. And some of that is modeling. And some of that is just like calling it out and teaching like, hey, we're all going to be kind to each other, or, hey, this is a safe space. And some people might say things or do things that are different or uncomfortable, or we might not understand. And that's okay. And if something ever happens that you don't understand, you can always ask a question. But we're always going to treat people kindly. We're always going to treat people with respect. And we're going to support each other.
Yeah. And so what are some other things that potentially you can do? I'm thinking more along the lines of like, you know, you're in a youth hockey locker room where there's a lot of bullying because and like, bullying is an interesting word for me because I think a lot of times people are bullying and they don't really recognize that they're bullying. They're trying to be funny or they're trying to be sarcastic and, you know, just to get a rise or to get a laugh from people. They don't understand that like it's actually affecting the person that they're making fun of. So like you talked about having that relationship with the kid, but you also talked about like the relationship as a group and how they treat each other. You know, what are some specific things that you do? What are some specific things that you talk about to make sure that the players themselves or the kids themselves are creating that environment where people feel like they belong, people feel like they can get the most out of themselves?
You know, I feel like if I could bottle that up and tell it to you perfectly right now, like I could retire and just Sell that. I think it's a lot of different things, right? It's like proactively having conversations and teaching skills about how to be kind, about what to do if somebody says something that you don't like, about what to do if you see somebody on your team saying something unkind to somebody else, right? So teaching them self-advocacy skills, teaching them to advocate for others, teaching people to stand up for them, like themselves and each other, teaching them to recognize like, hey, this might be something that's okay to be said. This is not something that's okay to be said. And like explicitly like talking about those things. I think it's also like calling it out when it happens. And like and again, it's like that fine line too, because like kids are kids and they can joke around, and you don't want to like over like, hey, that's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. Because kids are kids and they're going to make mistakes too. But if you're in the locker room and you hear it or you see it, call it out. Hey, I just heard, and maybe you don't call the person out. Like, I just heard somebody say these words, or even if you didn't hear it and like you hear it from a parent or a player, you call a team meeting and it's like, hey, I heard that these words were used from one teammate to another teammate today, yesterday, at practice, in the locker room, whatever it is. What do we think about that? How do you think the person would feel, the person who that was said to? How do you think that made them feel? Did anybody around here hear that language being used? Well, if you heard it, that's your teammate. Somebody just did something unkind to your teammate. Like, did you step in to help them? No? Why didn't you? Oh, you did? That's awesome. Did other, I don't know, like I'm thinking about things like that. You have to give them language so that they can use, and then teach them when to apply that language.
We used to do that at Cornell in Michigan. We would sit around as a team when somebody was making fun of somebody and say, you know what? That was unkind. How do you think that made my teammate feel? I'm totally kidding. No, that's so relevant. And I think like, obviously that you're talking about younger kids, but I think that's actually relevant for like older groups too, being proactive about building that culture, not just reacting to the things that happen. Obviously you want to react when things are happening and correct them. But the thing that you said there, I think at the older ages is what you have to do. And I think that's what Shafe was really good at in building culture, is like we were so proactive about setting standards of excellence and setting accountability structures if things end up going, the wrong way, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And we like did an entire camping trip every year to set those standards.
Yeah.
We took 2 days and that's all we talked about was culture standards. How are we going to treat each other? What's acceptable? What's not acceptable? And that's from 5-year-olds. You can do that all the way up into professional, the professional levels. And like the more proactive you are with that stuff, like, man, the less fires you're going to have to put out in the year. And when you do have to put out those fires, now there's something to fall back on. Now there's something that's been written or something that's been talked about saying, hey, we talked about this is not acceptable behavior. And because of that, this is the consequence. This is the accountability that's going to happen. If you're always just winging it and you don't have those structures in place, it's a lot harder to build a culture of accountability at the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, we do it in kindergarten, in early childhood. We have our kids come up with their classroom rules. Like maybe that's something that coaches do, like how you did at Cornell. Like you have your team come up with like, what are our team rules? How are we going to treat each other? How are we going to show up every day for practice? How are we going to show up for our games? How are we going to interact with each other? And they come up with what those rules are. And then they also then learn to hold each other accountable for it, right? Like it doesn't always have to be the coach either.
Let me ask you that, because I think that is that something that you guys talk about in the education world, like how to, like conflict resolution, how to hold a peer accountable, even at like those younger ages? Because for me, like that is the biggest issue when I do my team building, is the ability for the players to hold each other accountable. It's the hardest thing for them to do, but they also recognize that it's probably the most important or, most powerful thing when the room is policed by the players instead of the coach or the teacher in this instance. So like, is that something in the education world that you guys talk about, like how to have those conflicts and how to resolve those conflicts together as a group of peers?
Yeah. And it starts with like at the younger ages or with kids who don't have maybe those skills or the language around it. It starts with like the teacher mediating it. And then again, like the teacher fades themselves away. And I mean, something else I'm thinking about that we do in education that you could do at practice is you have like a closing circle at the end of every practice, right? Like we do it in school and the kids talk about, sometimes they do it after recess because, in elementary school, there's a lot of problems that happen at recess, but like at the end of practice, right? Like what went really well today? And then like, does anybody have anything that was challenging or does anybody have anything that was hard that you want to talk about? And then talking about what that hard thing was, whether it was something they struggled with at practice or whether it was something that somebody said to them that made them feel a certain way. And then like, hey group, what do you think? Like, how could we solve that problem? Or what do you think we should do next time? Or does this align with like our expectations that we came up with at the beginning of the year?
That's really cool.
Especially you have a practice that's not a good practice, and what do you think is going to be more effective as a coach for the long term, getting buy-in and all these different things? You screaming at them they had a horrible practice, or like you've already been doing this closing circle for a month and then you have your first really bad practice for whatever reason. This is a teaching moment for you to be able to teach them, and you ask them in the closing circle, guys, I know how good we are. Was today up to our standard? We've set our goals are this, and this. Was today up to our standard? And just look them all in the eye. I literally guarantee you, they will immediately feel awful that they had this terrible day. And then there's a teaching moment. Okay, why did this happen? What happened today? Did we think we were too, whatever. And then you coach them through, this is how you be consistent, blah, blah, blah. And there's a teaching moment right there. And they're immediately more bought in, and they're going to come back the next day and they're going to have a way, 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 way better practice. I literally bet my life on it, versus you scream at them. Now the kids are thinking all day long, oh my God, I'm going to get back to practice today. Did that make them any better at hockey? Right. So it's just something to try, see what kind of results you get from these types of things.
And Jess, can this work on an individual level too? Because I mean, I won't say who it is, but somebody I know very well, they have a kid who developed a bit of a nervous tick, like an anxiety kind of thing, a nervous tick. And people like other kids were starting to kind of make fun of the kid for that nervous tick. And so what the school did, this was happening at school. What the school did is they had this exercise. I think it's called This Is Me. And so they had the student get in front of, everybody else, like all their peers. And then the teacher would ask these kind of like prodding questions like, hey, so-and-so, we noticed that you have this. How does that make you feel? And then they've talked about it. And why do you feel like you have this? And they would talk about it. And like, what are the things that make you not feel so good that causes you to do this? And then they answer. And then like, so like the other kids are getting to know that kid, the why, like Vex and I always like to talk about. So like, he was talking about how when he gets made fun of for a certain thing, then he does this tick. And like when I heard about this, I was like, man, that is like unbelievable. That is like such an unbelievable strategy to help not only the kid who is suffering a little bit from the anxiety and from the tick, but what an awesome lesson for those other kids to learn about empathy. Because that for me is something severely lacking in this world, is empathy. And if we all had more of it, the world would be a much better place. We wouldn't have so much of these mental health issues. Just empathy is a superpower. And so I don't know, like we kind of talked about it from a team standpoint, but how can something like that from an individual standpoint maybe help?
I mean, I think it helps immensely. Like you said, I think it helps for the individual to do something like that, because then they're able to communicate like who they are, what impacts them, why they do the things that they do. And then other people can learn like, oh, this is a challenge. And I think too, something that I learned at a conference I was at a couple of years ago that really, really, really stuck with me was adults have a really hard time with things when things change and when things are different. Kids actually do not have a hard time with that. They learn that through what they pick up in society. So there's like this video that I was shown, and it's a bunch of kids out on the playground, and a little girl walks out onto the playground, or like crutches out onto the playground. She has a walker and she has a prosthetic leg. So she walks out. It's all the kids' first time seeing her. They all run over. It takes them literally 5 seconds to look at the leg. They process it, they absorb it, and then they all run away together because they don't care. Like, that's who she is. She's different. Great. Everybody's different, right? But as kids get older, I don't know, somehow like we get uncomfortable with things that are different. So the more we can talk about like everybody's differences and everybody's strengths and everybody's challenges and how everybody ticks, then the more people become accepting of others and the more people empathize with like, hey, this is really hard for you. I'm going to help you with that, as opposed to being like, this is really hard for you. And when you do those things, it makes me uncomfortable. So I'm just going to walk away, or I'm going to say this thing because it makes me uncomfortable. So I have to do something with it. But like, no, it's fine. It's not impacting you. This, I don't know.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And with the example that I was talking about, one of the things that came out of that was like, hey, what can we do as a group to help this person when he's having his, nervous tick? And then the next day when that was happening, all of a sudden the kids, kind of like you said, like, it's making me feel bad. No, like, let's think about how we can help that person. I think that's, man, empathy and being able to help people through some stuff. Let me ask you this, like, how important is modeling that as the teacher or as the coach, and admitting your own faults, being vulnerable about your struggles and your challenges? I always felt that the best way to connect with a player, the best way to connect with a group, is to just be freaking open and vulnerable about your shit. It humanizes you as a leader. It puts you in situations where now, like, a kid you might say something and the kid's like, hey, I'm going through that right now. Like, I'm really glad you said that because I know it's not just me that's dealing with that certain circumstances or whatever it may be. So how in the education world is that something you talk about, like how important it is to be open and vulnerable about your own stuff, your own challenges?
Yeah, modeling is so important. So like in the educational world, when we are teaching new things, we have to follow like what's called evidence-based practices. So there are strategies or skills that have been researched over time, over long periods of time, and have like proven effects on changing outcomes. And so modeling is one of them. Modeling, like teaching direct skills, modeling routines, repetition, things like that. The more you can implement those types of things in your practice in your day and whatever it is that you do, the more kids are going to be able to learn and grow.
Awesome.
Love that. We talk about that a lot, repetition, routines, things like that, and how they've helped both of us in our careers immensely. So it's cool to hear that we were doing something right.
Well, and in the 5 years, Vex, that we've been doing this, I think the one saying that's probably hit us between the eyes the most has been lessons are caught, not taught.
Yeah.
I forget who it even was that said that. And it was years ago. But when they said that, we both were like,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah. Bang. Yeah. Crazy.
That's cool.
Well, Jess, thank you so much this was awesome.
Killed it. Spans. Well done.
You were a little nervous for this. So dear listeners, Jess was a little nervous for this. I could tell a little bit. She's a little nervous, but dude, you knocked this out of the park.
I didn't get a plan. I wasn't able to process and prepare.
I did.
I like to prepare.
I gave you a plan.
Oh, listeners, if you would have seen the drama that was... No, I'm just kidding. They can't.
I know. We were at each other's throats. You kidding me? No, hey, like, honestly, Jess, like, Vex and I, we get off most podcasts, and like there's some of them that we get off and we're like, damn, like that one's going to make an impact. I think this one is severely going to make an impact and going to have a unbelievable positive like impact on so many different people. So we really appreciate your time. We really appreciate your expertise and your knowledge. And you knocked this one out of the park.
Well, thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.